Over the last decade, Madeline has built three successful companies and a community of over 2 million people. She is the founder of MHM Luxury Properties, Madeleine Raiford-Holland, Education, and moderately high maintenance luxury properties. Her mission is to inspire anyone who feels chained by the golden cuffs to step out of their comfort zone and build their massively profitable short-term rental business. She also helps aspiring short-term rental investors and established operators start or optimize short-term rental businesses that focus on elevated guest experiences and automated systems. Her goal is not only financial freedom, but also time freedom to live life on your terms. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. I am so excited for this long overdue episode. Thank you, Madeleine, for coming and hanging out with me on the show. Let's get into it. Ever wonder what it really takes to build a business and a life that feels like yours? Welcome to That Big CEO Energy. I'm Callie, entrepreneur, operations whiz, and your go-to for the real, raw, and unfiltered side of business and life. Because let's be honest, entrepreneurship isn't just about strategy and success. It's about figuring out who you are in the messy middle, trying new things, well, just because you can, and creating a life that actually fits you. From solo deep dives to candid convos with powerhouse business owners, we're talking all about the highs and the lows and the "why did no one warn me about this?" moments that come while chasing big dreams. So, let's get uncomfortable, embrace the chaos, and make it happen. Madeleine, we made it. We're here. Hi, hello.
Arrived. Hello. I've been looking forward to this so much.
You guys, let me just tell you these tech issues that we've had real quick. Short story before we get started. I was recording on Madeleine's podcast. As we do, we swap, we love on each other's podcast.
Yes.
And she shows up and she has a broken cord. And I was like, no big deal. We'll reschedule, right? Like, tech happens.
So gracious.
Everyone gets to live in a town where she gets same day delivery. So that's fun. And the next week, she comes onto That Big CEO Energy. And I have a broken cord. And the universe was like, not today, girls. And we were like, stick it to your face. So Amazon, 2 days later, we love Amazon around these parts. I don't care what people say. I'm still going to order from Amazon. It's going to be a whole thing. It makes my life easy. We talk about easy here, right?
Easy.
We're not going to be ashamed. So thank you, Madeleine, for your grace and your ease. You guys, she is a powerhouse. And I'm so excited for this episode because she doesn't run, or has she not just built one business? Nope, not two businesses. Three, my friends, 3 businesses. And she's a mama of how many kids, Madeleine?
2 toddlers.
2 toddlers of
boys.
Well,
I feel like we need to clarify that piece because I was
episode done. They're like, praise all hail Madeleine. You are a boy mom. We don't need to talk about it anymore. We all get it.
I literally told my husband last night, it was like, I love all 3 of you boys so much, but growing up in a family of girls, like, I'm not used to the boyness. And currently we're living in Fort Worth, Texas, which is not home for us. Home is Athens, Georgia, because my husband is on some temporary military orders out here. And I'm isolated because we live close by my mom and my sister. So I get to see them just about every day because my sister and I planned and have our offices next door to each other. Talk about best thing ever. Yes. But I'm missing the feminine energy. I'm missing the girl energy because I just don't have that out here in Fort Worth. And I told him last night, I was like, I love you boys so, so much, but there is just way too much like testosterone, like farting, like all of the things like going on in my general vicinity way too much right now. And I need some women in my life. So I'm thrilled to be here having a conversation with another like kick-ass woman. Like this is filling my cup more than you know. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're gonna hop into it. And one of the things that I always like to do on my channel is just give everybody a little coloring on how dynamic everybody is, right? We don't all arrive to having a business the same way. And I think that that is super important for a lot of people to understand. All of my guests that I've had on this podcast have had very interesting ways of arriving to today, which I think is amazing. And I also feel like it doesn't get talked about enough because we are conditioned to believe whatever social media shows us on the highlight reel, right? And a lot of it
Totally.
can look like overnight success. A lot of it can look like we just snapped our fingers and ta-da! We're like Rosie
There we are. The
Rosie
Riveter,
on the Jetsons. We're
Oh
just
no,
here.
the other Rosie. I was thinking
Yeah.
Rosie the Riveter, but I mean Rosie
Yeah,
on the Jetson.
Rosie on the Jetsons. She just shows up and everything's clean, right? Like, so there's this interesting dynamic that we play on social media, displaying our businesses and what we want people to see. But also, I love that you preach everything that I shout also from the rooftops is we got into business because we wanted financial freedom and we wanted time freedom. So let's get into it. Let's chat. Madeline, how did you get here?
Oof, that is such a loaded question. I'm going to go all the way back to college. I thought that I wanted to go to medical school. I thought that sounded like a fun thing to do. I liked being in charge. And then I went to school, pre med, had a scholarship, the whole thing. I realized about 2 years in, blood guts make me throw up. So that was not going to be an advantageous career path.
And she
It,
has boys.
right, exactly. The whole maleness thing of my house just not working. Anyways, so at that point, the way that my university worked, I went to Virginia Tech, they have you start on your major year one, semester one. Like, okay, great. So they told me if I wanted to change my major out of pre med, then I would need to spend another year with them. And I said, no, thank you. I will not be paying you another years of tuition, year of tuition. So I went into some career counseling and it was like business, entrepreneurship. And I was like, okay, I can get down with that. Let me do some internships and really focus on that while I'm still getting a pre-med degree. It was a tough time, but I will say that it taught me how to persevere. It taught me how to find information. And so after that, I went to work at a government contracting company. And I became COO of that company. People, processes, systems, automations were my thing. We doubled in size while I was there, which was a lot of, great bringing them into the 21st century of let's get CRM in place. Let's actually, do things the way that we should with technology. So that was a lot of fun. But I mean, it wasn't really my passion. High security identification, I was good at it, but it wasn't filling my cup.
Mm.
During that time, I was traveling all over Kingdom Come, over 100 nights a year with this company. And I ended up starting a lifestyle blog as a creative outlet because I was in hotel rooms all by myself all the time. So I started sharing things like my travel experiences, certain things to do in Memphis or Chicago, or and just wherever life took me. I wanted a creative outlet to be able to share that. And I ended up growing that business to a 6-figure business doing brand collaborations with Delta Airlines and Target and Wayfair and all of these big name brands because I had learned how to consistently show up and create content and share what I loved.
Mm.
During this point, my husband and I, he was also traveling quite a bit for work, and we had our first son. And we said, you know what, we're making other people a ton of money, but we're not really building anything for ourselves. What can we do that will start getting us off of this hamster wheel that we find ourselves on? And I had read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I said, real estate makes more millionaires than anything else. So let's dip our toe in the real estate water. I had dabbled in long term rental property management during my time as a COO, just took it on. And I figured out that tenants and toilets were just not for me. Absolutely not for me. So, you guys getting the theme here? No blood and guts, no tenants and toilets. Like, the name of my lifestyle website was also called Moderately High Maintenance. So there's that, if that gives you any indication of what I enjoy. So I said, what if we took all of these collaborations and this lifestyle website that I've curated and made a physical space that my community can come and enjoy? And so we opened and purchased our first Airbnb. And I was really intentional when we were starting that first property to create a brand standard, to make it a curated and elevated experience. And we also made it shoppable because I had that affiliate revenue background with moderately high maintenance. So if a guest slept in the bed and said, I absolutely love this sheet or this down comforter or this duvet or you name it, they had a way to go in and say, and shop their stay. And that added so much additional revenue. But also, the property was so wildly successful that we opened 5 more in the next 6 months. And since that time, we now have 16 properties under management, whether we own or arbitrage or co host. And I put the systems processes in place to where I'm spending, less than an hour a week in that business. It's a 7-figure boutique short-term rental brand. All of the stays are shoppable. And now I help other families create not just that financial freedom, but the time freedom with their short-term rental businesses as well.
Holy moly. Wow. I mean, can we talk about genius layering here?
Thank you. I do want to circle back to that. I just did an episode on my podcast talking about that. You heard the phrase, and then we grew 5 more in 6 months. I just did an episode called The Messy Middle, which is what we were just talking about, like that instantaneous, it looks like overnight success.
Yes.
And I just shared an entire 20-minute episode of what that messy middle part sounds like, because I glaze over it in the story, but that little part almost broke me and my husband because it was messy. Like, we were in a time of scale. It's obviously a lot of financial investment to grow that size. And at that point, we weren't big enough in our business to leave the 9 to 5s. We were close, but it's one of those situations where it gets worse before it gets better because you have to take on more to grow to get out of that 9 to 5, but you still have to juggle both at the same time. And I was pregnant with our second son at that point. And we were both literally at our breaking point. And it was one of those things where we just had to dig deep and say, you know what? We are sacrificing now for a future that we're wanting to build later. And so I do not want to glaze over that and just share that highlight piece. If you guys want to hear more of that about that section, it's called The Messy Middle.
We'll link it in the show notes for sure.
Yeah, it was so hard. It was so hard, but I'm so glad that we stuck it out because now I do have the flexibility to be able to choose how we spend our time, and we've curated our life in a very intentional way. And I'm so appreciative that we did stick it out. So this is your encouragement, folks. If you are in that messy middle part of growing your business, but not quite there to leave a 9 to 5, if that's your goal, it may not be your goal, but the systems, processes, automations, and whatever business you're in absolutely do work, and it does get better. But give yourself those benchmarks and just know that sometimes it just takes 6 months to a year of really dedicated time, being intentional to create a limitless future.
Yeah. And when we think about 6 months to a year, I mean, think about how life moves so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels so much longer than what it actually is. Right. And I think sometimes we get hung up on this time factor of, We see 6 months or a year on a calendar, black and white, and we're like, that is so long.
Yeah.
And I always remind people, especially mamas, the days are long and the years are short.
I'm so glad you said it because I was about to. You read my mind. But it's so stinking true.
It is.
There are some days with my boys, I love them. You guys are going to think I hate my children, but I don't. I love them so much. But like, how am I going to survive 2 hours to bedtime
Yeah.
at this point? I
Yeah.
mean, and it's the same thing when you're growing a business. Like your business is your baby, and it's like, okay, especially as you're trying to grow and expand and you're taking on additional responsibilities like payroll if you're growing a team or, other things, then it's like, all right, well, how am I going to make the next payroll? Like
Yeah.
it gets the same thing. And I think motherhood prepares us so much for having a business baby too.
Yes, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about kind of the mindset piece. I know, and we'll definitely link to the messy middle, but can you give us some nuggets in terms of what your mindset was during that time and when you reflect back, what do you think is the biggest thing that you had to overcome in your building phase?
Yeah. So the mindset piece of it was like, hey, we are sacrificing now because we know what we're building. We know that there's another way. This is a proven concept. And I was very intentional from the beginning that I was creating every aspect of my business to replace myself out of it. And it takes more work in the beginning. It's not as fast and it's not as nimble to document every SOP, every process, like creating Loom videos every time I was doing it. But I was very intentional from the beginning that I did not want to create another job for myself. And so I created those systems, processes, the knowledge base behind it very intentionally, knowing that I was going to replace myself out of every single aspect of that position.
That's amazing. What do you think is the biggest struggle that you have in your business when you think about all of the building that you had to do?
There were a few. It's knowing when and who to hire and what to use technology for. And I knew that I didn't want to take on a huge payroll expense. And so I did everything that I could to automate as much as I could, but then having somebody to run the automations. And then that way I could have a dashboard and full visibility into what was going on in my business without having to actually be in the weeds of it. I'd say that was the biggest challenge.
Yeah. I was like cheering as she was saying this because this is if you are in operations, you're probably like, yes, queen, because it is so true. And it is something that I know when I work with the women businesses that I handle, there's this mindset that you have to get yourself to understand that automation is okay. Like
Right.
it is not something that is going to sound robot-y if you do it right. It's not going to sound inauthentic. What it is it's creating freedom for you. It's creating an opportunity so that and we hear the phrase all the time, right? So that you can work on your business instead of be in your business. Like
Totally. And
that's what we're talking about here.
I think it can also create a better experience for your client, your guest, whatever your market or your ideal client or customer is. We use automated guest messaging to communicate check-in messages. We on the property side, we also automate the door codes to the last four digits of their cell phone number. And that's all like running in the background. That's not a manual task for me or my team. Even down to like a guest books a property, we have a software that automatically notifies our primary cleaner and they can accept or decline the clean. If they decline it, it automatically gets our secondary cleaner to either accept or decline the clean and puts it on their schedule. So getting into the weeds of what can be automated, what should be automated, and how are we having quality checks to make sure that all of the automations are continuing to run as they should, as opposed to me just saying, oh, it's more work and I'm going to have to check it anyways. I may as well just do this manually.
Mm. Thank you for that nugget,
Uh-huh.
because that's a piece that often gets missed. It is not easier because you're doing it. It's easier because you took the time to curate the process, to record the Loom video, and now you're handing it off to somebody else because the task is going to come again. And unless you want to be the one doing it again, said no one ever, you have to, right? So it's this balance. And I love that you have now automated so much of this side of the business that now you get to help other people that want to build
Right.
their empire, is what I'm going to call it, because it sounds like that's exactly what you did. So tell me how you kind of took this business model and saw the need, and now what you're doing.
Yeah. So once our short-term rental business took off, as I said, I was very intentional about creating the processes and getting help in there as soon as I could. But you start to realize people are like, can I take you out to coffee? Can I pick your brain?
Mm.
Can I, you guys have been really successful. What nuggets do you have for that? And, I'm always happy to share because I believe a rising tide raises all ships. But real estate is so nuanced that it requires a lot more than a coffee or lunch in order for me to actually give people that the information that they need to be successful. And
For
so
sure.
I decided to just package up all of my SOPs and all that I had created to share with my team into an online course. And part of my other journey is while we were starting our short-term rental business, I spent over $50,000 on coaches, consultant, like not consultants, coaches and programs that were promising, huge outcomes, but it was all just generalized information that was really hard to apply to my specific situation. And what I found was when I was helping people, they were most successful with me in their corner, helping them underwrite the deals, because the hardest part is people will scroll Zillow and think that a property will be successful, but they never get beyond the scrolling, and they just get stuck in analysis paralysis because they don't understand how to know if a property will be profitable, what it takes to be profitable in whatever market that they're in, because you want to have a top property in whatever market you're in, because you don't want to race to the bottom on price. You want to compete on value. And so that's what all of those other programs were missing, is they were missing somebody in my corner saying, yeah, this is why the numbers work. This is how you run the numbers. This is what you need to do to be successful in this market. It was
Mhm.
just online videos, and then it's like, figure it out. And it was so hard. And so I created the program that I wished I would have had, which is one-on-one hand holding, like underwriting every deal with you, walking through the process of how to set up your specific property to be successful in the market that you choose, working within your budget. Because people come to me with a $2 million budget and other people come with a $250,000 budget. Like, the difference in what you're going to do with that type of budget is so different. How are you going to capture that in an online course? Yes, there are some things that are useful that can be generalized in a course, but I wanted to help people at a higher level. And so because we had automated and had the great team in place on the property side, it freed me up to be able to pour into people and pour into my clients like that. And we've had so many hundreds of clients who have come in and created that time and financial and profitable short-term rental business through our coaching program. And I'm so proud of that.
I love that. I'm going to ask you to toot your horn and give us like your most successful story, because I am so intrigued by all of this.
Oh, oh man. I can, there are so many, it's hard to choose. But one that's just really top of mind, we had a client who came to us. He had done some other real estate investing, but never short term rentals. And so he lived up in New England, but wanted to invest down in Florida and ended up getting a property in Tampa. And We negotiated the deal really well. We had paired him up with a real estate agent, helped him find funding, and he ended up negotiating this deal, went into the property with $70,000 of equity in this property, got it set up, and it's been a cash cow for him. And we just did something called a cost segregation study, which is huge that you're allowed to do with short-term rentals because it's an active income business. But you can essentially accelerate the depreciation of certain aspects of the property down to a 5 or 7 year or sometimes 1 year depreciation schedule so that you can write off more of the value of the property and shield your taxes. He saved over $100,000 in taxes.
Stop it right now.
So he not only won with the equity, his property has already appreciated some. It is cash flowing. And we're not talking a couple $100 a month. We're talking, a couple $1,000 a month in cash flow profit, guys. And just saved a crap ton on his taxes. And that is something
that guy.
Right? It is something that is so unique to the short-term rental space in the real estate industry, is being able to win on all of those fronts.
Oh, that's amazing. That's
so
amazing.
Especially as an entrepreneur with, self-employment tax and like all of this other thing, like everybody should be thinking, even high income earning 9 to 5, or like everybody should be thinking about just getting one or two, even if it's not your exit plan, like just for the tax benefits, folks. It is so stinking powerful.
And this is what we say when we want financial freedom and time freedom. Because what is this guy doing? Like, what is he doing on a daily basis?
So he is a young guy, like no kids at this point. His partner works for an airline. They like pick up and go to Portugal. They travel quite a bit. He is still in his 9 to 5. This is his first property, but he's in like a really big growth phase of his life. He's like piling it away. He's doing another flip. Like he's continuing to grow. He has still his 9 to 5. He's a successful distributor for a plumbing and electric company.
Sure.
Like makes great money. Great money doing that. Loves it, loves his employees. But the key thing is he is choosing how he spends his time.
Yes.
That's really what it is for me. Not everybody wants to leave their 9 to 5. I get a ton of doctors, a ton of engineers who have spent decades in their training. They're like, the goal isn't to leave, but I want to keep, more than half because the government's taking this much of it. I'm like, fair point. Yeah. So you may love your whatever business you're growing and you want to look at another venture that is semi-passive. I will not say passive because nothing is fully passive, folks. Like,
amen.
Nothing is fully passive. You want something that's semi-passive that you can get the tax benefits and protect the income that you're getting from your main thing.
Yeah.
See that all the time.
Freedom, and I've said this multiple times, but freedom is a mindset. Freedom is not laziness. Freedom is not like, I'm just going to lay on the couch all day and hang out in my underwear and
I would lose my mind
and be fat and sassy. Like that is not what we're saying here. It is the freedom mindset of, if you are a mama, if you are a single dad, if you have kids in any realm, there is power in being able to say, I'm not available because I have to go to my kid's school thing, or I have to run them to the doctor. And I didn't realize how much I was pigeonholing the word freedom in my mindset, because I thought that freedom was waiting for me at the end of the working rainbow when I was 60 years old and hitting the retirement pot, right? Like,
well, prime example here. I mentioned that I'm in Fort Worth, Texas right now. 3 years ago, when we were still working full-time 9 to 5s, John, my husband, is a reservist in the Marine Corps, folks. So that usually means 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks out of the summer. And this was his part-time thing. When our business took off, he left his 9 to 5 to run our household. He's a house husband most of the time, folks. And he plays a lot of golf and it's great. But before he left his 9 to 5, he was actually asked to come out to Texas for 6 months. I had not left my 9 to 5 either. Do you know what we did? We spent 6 months without John. I had two tiny toddlers. This was in that messy middle phase of like, we were so close to leaving. And actually, the bonus money that he got from coming on temporary orders for 6 months gave us that like last little push to get us over the edge to feel comfortable to leave 9 to 5s. But we didn't have the flexibility. And I am sitting in Fort Worth, Texas. It has been a very hard season of my life right now, but I have to look back with such gratitude and say, I have the freedom to move my family for 3 months to Texas so we're not separated. That is freedom. Like,
That is freedom.
just being able to say, you know what? We don't have to do that. We don't have to be separated. We have the full flexibility to just pick up and move, hire another nanny, hire somebody to watch them. Like, that is so, like, that is the definition of freedom to me.
Yes. Yes. How do we help people get there? What are some tools that you have in your toolbox to position people to start thinking about what their freedom looks like?
I think you just have to define what your why is and what your priorities are in your life. I knew that I didn't want to miss my kids growing up. They don't spell love love, it's time. And
Mhm.
so I always wanted to be able to choose how I spent my time with them. And it may, depending on what your priorities look like, I I would encourage you to write them down and say, what in my life is standing in the way of that? And exploring things from your past experience, your current zone of genius, like what do you love? What do you excel at? If it freedom for you looks like starting your own thing, what what can create that freedom for you that aligns with your priorities?
Amazing. How do you, in your
Mm-hmm.
day to day, use your big CEO energy? What is one thing that you do?
Oh my goodness. In what regard?
Yes,
Open ended. Oh my gosh, you're killing me with this. I love it. I love it. But I think I'm going to steal some of the things that you shared on my podcast. And I think the
because we're
biggest
so
thing,
aligned, and
I
I know what
know,
you're going to say, and it's going to be amazing.
I think my biggest CEO energy move is saying no.
Girl.
Is that what you thought I was going to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
That or delegation.
Yeah. Well, yes, that's the other thing, the delegation at home and in the office. I'm big on the delegation piece, but that in a sense is me saying no. It's like me personally, Madeleine Raiford-Holland is going to say no to this, but it's not a no, necessarily across the board. It's that I'm not, but my somebody on my team can.
Yes. Yes. Madeline, how can people load up on coaching with you to experience this freedom that you have to offer?
I think the easiest way to find me is either on my website, madelineraifordholland.com. And if you're interested in learning more about our mentorship programs, there's like a red banner across the top that says interested in working one-on-one. You can click that and fill out the application. But also, you can just binge a crap ton of free content over on my Instagram page at Madeleine Raiford-Holland. I know she's going to link this in the show notes, but just for those of you listening, my name has an extra E in it. So Madeleine. That trips people up quite a bit. But I would love to see you guys. Oh, also the podcast, that messy middle piece of it. So,
Yes.
so many places to find me. The podcast is the Lux and the short of it.
And she just started her podcast, so please go and show her
Yes.
some love. And all of the episodes are so good. I've binged two this morning, so it's fine.
Well, thank
We're
you for
all friends here.
listening.
Gosh, girl. And one other question that I had for you is if you had to go back and tell young Madeline that was working the 9 to 5, crushing it phase of her life, if you had to tell her one thing, what would it be?
Don't wait so long.
Mm.
Don't wait so long.
We do that out of scarcity,
Mm-hmm.
folks. We do that because we can't see the future. And I think that for me, especially, that's the biggest hurdle. And I just want us all to remember that we're so much more than our minds give us credit for.
1000%. Completely agree.
Madeleine, thank you for your wisdom. Thank you
Thank you, Kelly.
for showing up. And please, everybody, go and binge her. She's incredible. Her team is lovely. And if you have a heart and a mission to create time and financial freedom, and you don't even know what that looks like, but maybe you have just a few nickels in your bank account to figure it out, she can help you figure out what that looks like. So thanks again, Madeleine.
Thanks, Callie.
Hey, friend. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If something in this episode clicked for you, I want you to shoot me a DM over on Instagram. The link is in the show notes. Let's chat about how you're making the messy middle work for you. If you loved what you heard, would you mind sharing this episode with a friend who needs to hear it too? And drop a quick review if you don't mind. It helps get the word out, and I appreciate it more than you know. Catch you in the next one.